This video is going to go over exactly how to create a functional task dashboard. You're going to have a bunch of different views from card view to table view, timeline view, and calendar view. We're going to talk about the best practices on how to store your data and how to format it so things don't accidentally get deleted. We're going to establish all of our relations and add simple formatting to all of our tasks. If you don't want to do all the work that's outlined in this video, you can download this template for free. It'll be the first link in the description. But other than that, let's get started. So the first thing we need to do is create our new document. So what you can do in your browser, open a new tab and type coda.new. And that will bring you into a new document. I'm going to rename our doc to be simple tasks. And then I'm going to click on the icon and look for a custom icon that I've created. If you download this template from the link in the description, it's going to include all of those icons. I'm going to open up the sidebar here. And now the first real thing that we need to do is to figure out what data we're going to have and how to structure it. We're going to have one table that's going to be our tasks table. And then we're going to have one other one that's going to help assist in some of our statuses. But let's create our main one. So I'm going to say /table, and that will generate a new table for us. And I'm going to name this db_tasks. And the reason I use db, it stands for database. And you're going to hear a lot of people in the Coda community talk about databases. And so anytime someone talks about a database in the context of Coda, they're just meaning a table. And now we're going to need to think about our column names and exactly what types the columns are. So the first one we're going to call it our task name. Right now it's set by default on the text type, which is good. In addition to that, we're probably going to need a start date. So I'm going to say start date, and I'm going to change the type here. So I'm going to click on the little T drop down, change your column type, and then we'll scroll down to where we see date. And then I'm also going to need an end date as well. I'm going to change this column type to be date. For the notes, I'm probably going to rename this to details. It's on a canvas column, which is a good thing. If you're not familiar with what a canvas column is, basically it can store the same information that you can store on a normal page. So you can have images, you can mix it in with text, you have text formatting, headers, pretty much anything you could want within a details tab for a task. This canvas column works great for that. We're going to have another one, probably going to have it be a person or a people column. And I'm going to call this assigned to. This will let us select anyone in our document so that we can assign a specific task to them. And now the last column we'll need is probably our status column. So to make this easy, I'm going to go to our select list option. I'm going to create a new select list, and then I'm going to define the options that we'll have within our statuses. This will be our completed, and this will be our active. Then I'm going to click on this little color here. I don't like to have any color on them usually. I'm already using color with the emojis, so I'm just going to clear it here, and then I'll say clear all. Then I'm going to have the active one be on top, and that's good there. But we're going to go one step further. You're going to see this option that says convert to table, and we're going to actually push that, and we're going to name our table db_task status. We'll push create. And what this does is it turns the select list that we made into a database or a table. I typically like to have any relations or any lists as their own database. That way, if we need to reference them anywhere else within the document, typically it's easier to do it with a table. It also makes it easier if you wanted to have, for example, a settings page where people could change the statuses of all of your tasks. With a table, it's much easier to add a new entry into your statuses rather than if it was a select list. So I'm going to rename our header here and be status. And now you'll see if we do any drop downs, we have both of our statuses. And you'll see there's also an add new. I'm just going to turn that off. So I'm going to go click on this little table icon, say column options. And then if you go to the options settings down here, there's a option called allow adding of new options. You can uncheck this. And so now if we click into it, we don't have that extra option. Okay, so this is perfect. We have our main table set up We know exactly how we're gonna deal with all of this data. We know what data we're gonna need. Now the next thing I'm gonna do is probably put in some sample data. That way we can see the changes that we're making as we go into our different views. Okay, so I have my sample data in. Now the next thing we need to do is to organize. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a new page. We're gonna call this databases. I'm gonna select an icon. And now any of our databases are gonna be nested under this folder. So we're gonna create a new folder. We're gonna say db/tasks. And then we're gonna create one more, db/task statuses. Or status. And then we're gonna nest these both under databases. I'm gonna set their icons. So the way that we're gonna format everything is that each page on the side that's nested under databases is going to house one parent table. And so in this case, we have database tasks. We're gonna drag this over here into the proper page. And then for the status, we're gonna drag this also onto its proper page. Great, and so now anytime we need to reference the parent tables, it's all organized. And the reason that we're doing this is because we're gonna create different views. There's a calendar view, there's a timeline view, table view, there's all of those different views. And those views are going to reference this parent table that we made first. And the cool thing about that is say someone accidentally deleted your timeline view. Does that mean it's going to delete all of your tasks that are also in the calendar view, that are in your table view? No. And the reason is because all of the different views are referencing this one parent. And the way Coda treats it, if you delete your parent table, then you delete everything. So then all of those views are going to be broken. And so the reason we separate them out into their own folders here is so that we can eventually hide the databases view. So in case someone accidentally deletes something, they're never going to actually delete the parent table. So now that we have everything organized with how our tables are going to be formatted, we have them in their proper databases folders or pages, you can say, I'm going to figure out the structure for a document. Typically, the way I like to do it is I have the main topic as a page, and then I'll have subpages that all have to do with that main page. And so in this case, I'm gonna call it tasks. I'm gonna select the icon, and then I'm gonna create some subpages. I'm gonna create 4 of them because I know I'm gonna have 4 different subpages. And then I'm gonna name this task/table. I'm gonna copy this name, paste it. This one will be our cards, calendar, and then this will be our timeline. Gonna pick some icons for each of these. So we have all of our pages here. And the reason that I'm referencing its parent page for all of these 4 subpages, you'll see how it says tasks / and then whatever that page is imagine you had a bunch of different pages. It's not uncommon to see someone with a Coda doc with hundreds and hundreds of pages. So imagine you were in a new page and you were referencing one of the tasks pages. Say I was doing the cards one. Imagine if it was just called cards. Then it would be hard to understand exactly what cards means. And so whenever you have a reference to what its parent page is, in this case, the parent page is tasks, it makes it a lot clearer into what this page actually takes you to or what information it houses. Okay, so we're gonna build our tasks table. So to do this, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go into our tasks database here. We're going to highlight. So I'm just getting the cursor and dragging up to make it blue so that it highlights the entire table. I'm gonna Control C to copy, go back to our table, Control V to paste. And then you'll see this notification that pops up where it says you pasted one view. This is a good thing. What it means is you're not actually duplicating your data, you're just creating a view of that table. And you'll see here, if you hover over it, there's a little anchor with a 1, and that just indicates that there's a 1 view of your main table. And this goes back to how I was talking about if you delete the main table, it deletes all the views. In this case, you can see since this view is a child of the main table, if we delete this view, you're not gonna delete any data. So now in the tasks table view, what we need to do is just make everything look very nice. And so I'm gonna call this our tasks table. Then I'm gonna highlight, gonna make this a H3 header. So you just click on it, and then you have your different text options here. And then what I'm going to do is I would want to group all of this information by its status. So I'm going to go and click on the options. We're going to click on group, add a group, and we're going to group it by status. And then we're going to click on this icon and say to always show the empty groups. And so say you didn't have any tasks that were complete, you'd still want to show the complete group just to see that you don't have anything completed. I think all the other settings are good, but we're going to have a sort on this because we want to sort by whenever things are started. And if you want to change this, you can also sort it by due date. But in this case, I'm just going to say start date. And then we're going to have it on ascending, which should be good. I'm going to change some of the column widths here. And then I can right click on this column and just say unwrap text. That way everything looks nice and uniform. One thing I'm going to do is probably change the way that the start date and the end date visually look. Let's go ahead and click on the date format. And I typically like this option. It just gives so much information. Say, for example, you had a lot of different columns or they're very wide. If you were to scroll, it's easy to forget what row you're actually referencing. So what we can do is we can freeze up to this column. So I'm going to right click on this, say freeze up to this column. And now if we were to scroll, you'll see it always keeps the row title on screen, which is a good thing. Now I'm just going to add some formatting on the top. Typically, I like to have a line separator and then a little bit of description text talking about what the page does. So I have some already copied. I'm just going to paste it. And then it looks like this is about done. You'll see if you hover over the rows, there is an option for you to actually open the row into Coda's modal view. And so if we open this, it's not quite formatted. So let's go ahead and format and edit the way that this looks. So what we're going to do is with us clicked into this modal view, we're going to go on these three dots, say edit layout. And then we're going to start formatting things here. So I'm going to click on the column that I want to edit. And then we have our visual styles here. I typically like to do the left style because you can store more information and make the view a little bit smaller with the space that you're given. So I'm going to make that to its left. Same thing with the end date. Same thing with assign to, and same thing with status. Then I'm going to organize these to make this make sense with the way that the data flows. And then for details, I don't really think we need a title to be shown. Typically the way I do things is that there's always a space underneath to have an option to say whatever notes, to attach any images or whatever it is. So I'm going to say none for its label style. And then we're going to back out of this. And then I'm going to hide the hidden column link. And then I think that's it. So I'm going to say done. And awesome. We have our formatted view. So now it still has a plus button to indicate that you can put whatever information you need. So if you needed any task details, it's super easy to write all of these here. And like I said, it's a canvas column, so it's super powerful. If you need to attach an image, you can attach whatever image you want, and it'll go in line with your notes or your details. So now we're done with this. If a task is done, there's two ways to mark it as complete. You can expand the row, say this is complete, it'll go down to complete, or you can just drag one to be complete. With that, we're pretty much done with our table, and creating the other views is going to be super, super easy. On this page, we're just going to click into blank space. I'm going to say Control A to select everything, Control C to copy. If you're on Mac, it'll be Command, so Command A, Command C. We're going to copy it. We're going to go to our cards page, and we're going to paste it. So now we have an exact duplicate of what's on our table page, but I'm going to rename this to be Task Cards. And what we're going to do is we're going to go into our options view here, and we're going to change the view to cards. I'm going to go into our columns option here at the bottom, and I'm going to format the way that we're showing data on our cards. We probably don't need our details column, and we're probably just going to see the date based on its end date. So I'm going to hide that and that. And you can see just by hiding those columns, we've pretty much set everything up with this different view. Probably one thing I'm going to do is go into our cards display. I'm not going to have this bottom new card option. We already have one in the top right, so I'm just going to leave that one and hide that bottom one. There we go. With the way that we copied our previous table format, we've kept the sort that we did, we've kept the grouping that we did, which is all good. But one thing I'm going to add is some conditional formatting on this view. So if I click on this conditional format, I'm going to add a new rule, and we're going to format things based on the status. So we're going to click on status, We're going to start by checking our active. So if the status is any of the active selections, we're going to apply a specific color. So I clicked on more. I'm going to say a custom color. I'm going to say the background should be light green and the text should be dark green. So you'll see right now it's not showing any of the changes we're making, and that's because we don't actually have the status column that it's applying to. We don't have that showing on our view. So I'm going to change this and just say all columns. And perfect. Now we have some color there. Do the same thing, but with the completed view. So what we can do is do the 3 dots. We're going to duplicate. Instead of active, we're going to select complete, and then we're going to change our colors a little bit. The only thing I'm really going to change is the background color and make it just a little bit darker, maybe this dark. And then I want to add a strikeout so that all the text is struck out. So I'll just select this option here, and perfect. So now any task that is completed will just be struck out, and it's very obvious just by the look of it that a task is complete. And what you can do is anytime you drag a task down here, it'll be marked as complete. And eventually you're going to have a lot of tasks, and you're going to have too many in your view, or you're going to just have 100 that are under the completed status. So you can just collapse this, and it'll remember the way that you've last collapsed things. So it's not going to have 1,000 different tasks on your dashboard in like a month's time. All right, the last thing to do is just redo our text here at the top, make sure that it's relevant to the page that we're on. And just like we did before, the next thing we're going to do is Control A, copy everything, go to our calendar view, paste everything. We're going to go and rename this to be our task calendar. We're going to go to our options, and we're going to change the view to a calendar view. The reason it's not showing anything right now is because in our calendar display settings, so if we go to options, calendar display, it looks like our dates are shown incorrectly. So we have 2 different columns, right? We have our start date, we have our end date, and it looks like Coda guessed incorrectly. So it put our end date as our start date. So let's change this and then change our end date to be proper, and perfect. There's some other options here if you want to respect working days, all of that. One thing I'm going to do is in the calendar view, it looks kind of weird with the way that the title is formatted. So I'm actually going to hide the table title right over in this panel. Perfect. We have a calendar view. And the way that the calendar view works, if you want to create a new task, you can just click in a box, double click, it'll add a new event, and then you can put whatever settings you want. If you want to click on an existing one, just double click and you're into it. And just like last time, let's make sure to change the description text at the top of the page, make it relevant to the calendar. And just like the other times, Control A, copy everything, go to our timeline view, Control V, paste everything, go to our options. We're going to go to more because there's additional options than just the ones at the top. We're going to select timeline. We're going to go to our timeline display settings and properly set our dates here because it, again, incorrectly added them. We're going to say our start date is our start date column, end date's our end date column. If you want to make a really effective timeline, it's great to see how different tasks are relevant to other tasks. And in this case, they're called dependencies. So let's go ahead and set up some dependencies for our tasks here. We're going to say set up dependencies, and then it's going to ask you to select a specific column that will be your dependency column. In this case, we never actually created one. And so what we'll do is we'll add a new column here, and it'll create a new column within our source table that's called depends on. And so I'm going to close this, and let's go back into our source here. And you'll see that new column is just added right here, and that's a good thing. So if we go into our tasks timeline, now if we hover over, you'll see there's that little circle there, which means we can click on this and then drag it to any other task, and we'll see the relation from this task to this one. And it's cool because it really allows you to visualize exactly how your workflow is working. But with us adding that new column, it means it's going to add it everywhere. So let's check our formatting and make sure that everything's good. You'll see that in this case, the table format has hidden that one column. Let's go ahead and display it. And we'll just have it here as the last column. In our cards, let's see if it's showing. No, it's also hidden here, which is good. In our calendar, it's not going to show it. One thing we can do, if we click in the cards, it's also not going to show that dependency column here. but we do want to show it just in case you wanted to change it. So I'm going to click on those three dots and say edit layout, click show on the depends on column. And by default, it's formatting it in a table format. Let's uncheck that. And we're also going to make it with the same label style of left. We're going to reorganize this to be right here. And now if we want to relate it to any tasks, we can relate it here. And if we're on the timeline, we can see that relation take place. And if we also want to edit a task that's on the timeline, just double click. You'll see everything here. I almost forgot. We need to change the description text on this one. But with that, we've pretty much created our entire document. Last thing I'll do is on this tasks page, I just want these icons to be pretty big. That way they're easy to click on. But anytime you're going into tasks, right? You click on the tasks page, pick the view that you want to see your tasks in, and voila. You could probably make this entire thing in maybe like 3 minutes if you're super sloppy about it. But I think it's important to be very organized with the way that you handle your data. Using these organized database folders is really nice, just so you can ensure that no one ever accidentally deletes all your data if they delete a page or if they accidentally delete a table or something like that. What you can do with this databases is we can go here and say hide. Otherwise, if you don't have a paid plan, just leave it unhidden, and you can rename the page to something like source tables do not edit or whatever suits you. But that's about it. If you have any questions about this document and how things were built or why I did things a specific way, definitely let me know. The second link in the description will take you to a place where you can submit a custom form. If you have a custom workflow that you're trying to build, but you just either don't have the time to build it or you don't have the skill to build it, definitely let me know and we can get in contact and work things out. Other than that, let me know what I should build next, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.